With the enemy staged, what we now want to do is start keeping track of our score. So we'll make a variable to store that information, and we'll start score out at 0. If I go into my draw, this is where I can now display my score. So my color picker, I've chosen a color. I want to go a little bit darker than that so I get a little more pop. I'll just copy that. And now I can just simply say fill that color. What I also want to do is just put a comment here and just go, I'm going to just, this is where I'm drawing the UI, the text, the other graphics, the user interface that's happening on screen. So to do this, our text, we just use the text command. The text I want to put on screen, so I'll say score colon space and then close out the quote, and now we'll do a plus. We're going to add to this our score value or variable. So that will put the two next to each other, and then we just specify where I want them to be on screen, and I'll put it over and down 50. I also want to go text size, and let's try 24 and see what that looks like. So now if I just run my program, we'll see there's the text on screen. It's drawing it on top of the player, so that's good. So now I want to score when I hit the enemy. So let's just try something here. So when we intersect, I'll just go score plus plus. So that adds to it. Now if we go, we can see while I'm on top of one, while I'm hitting it, my score is ever increasing. So we need to make it so that once I score, that it doesn't keep scoring on the enemy. So what we can do is, in addition to intersecting here, we can also check and find out and say, and our enemies, the one we're checking with, we'll give it a property. We'll add a new property to it, and we'll say it is false. So the enemy's hit is false. Now it's telling me the global variable hit does not exist. I'm like, yeah, I know, because I haven't added it yet, but we're going to. So now let's go into the enemy, and we'll give it a new variable. Now this property will be of type boolean, a true or false value, and I'll just call it hit. So we'll start it out as hit equals false. So the enemy has not been hit yet. And now what we can do is we can go, so if the enemy has not been hit, we do that. Score goes up, and then we can go enemies dot hit. It's now equal to true. Keep in mind, here we were assessing or questioning the value. Anytime we ask the question, we use two equal signs. So we're comparing if enemies hit is equal to false. So we're asking that question, two equal signs. But when we're assigning that value, where we're giving it a value, or in this case even changing its value, we use a single equal sign. So in if statements, when we're asking questions, we use two equal signs. When we're assigning values, we use a single equal sign. Oh, but it's not just enemies. We need the square brackets and I of which enemy we're working with. So we make it equal to true, and then there we go. So now let's try and run this again. So now if I hit that 1, I can only score based on, and eventually if I find them all, yep, now I've touched all 10 of them, and I can't keep padding my score. So that's good. But what I want is, once the enemy has been hit, I want to do something to them. So in the enemy here, what I want to do is just modify it so that if, let's just put a couple returns so I get some spaces. So if hit is true, so we can just say if hit, or we can do hit is true. So if hit is true, and if hit. Now, so if hit is true, what I want to do is change my fill color. So we need to store a fill color in a color. So we'll just go color C. That's easy enough. And then we'll go C is equal to, and our initial color when we're working here, let's look. Our initial color is this color here. So I'll copy that, and now we're just going to reference that. We'll put a C in there. And C is equal to color C. Oh, not C there, paste. There we go. So that's that yellow color. But when they're hit, I want to go choose a new color here. I'll choose this kind of bright magenta. I'm going to copy that. So if hit, C is now equal to color. Paste that in. So if they're hit, we now change that color. Okay, let's run it and see what happens. Hit, okay, it's changed. So now we can even tell which ones have been hit. And boom, now I've got all 10. Great. What I also want to do is when they're hit, let's just go Vx, now equal to 0. And Vy, we'll just give it a fixed value right now. I'm just going to say 3. Now, we run this, let's watch what happens. If I hit it, drops down, hit it, drops down, hit it, oh. And I don't really know where they're going when they go off screen. So this is under our check boundaries. This is checking on horizontal. So let's now do a vertical one. So if y is greater than height, just go Vy is equal to 0, so we killed our momentum, and then we'll say y is equal to height, so we park them exactly the middle or at the bottom edge. And if vertical, okay, now let's try and run this and see. Again, do a little bit of code, run it. Okay, boom, they park. You know, that falling is just kind of like, wow, that's really... Now we could change the number, but I could also, and this is where it could be fun, you can just put a little gravity value in, and let's just go gravity is equal to, we'll just choose a number like 0.3. And now, if hit, so we can just go Vy plus equals gravity. So we're only adding to it. We're only adding to it when we're hit. We're only using gravity when we're hit. So now let's hit, and we can see it picks up some speed as it falls. I think that looks just a little bit better. Now, again, you know, if we want it to be a little bit floatier, you'd choose like maybe 0.1, so it's a little slower. And if you're like, no, I want it to crater really fast, do like 0.8. So now if I hit one, boom, they just really rocket down. It's all based on your artwork, your concept, your look, your feel, what you're trying to do in your project. So now we're able to add to the score. We're able to drop them down. But if I go in here and say, okay, you know, that's with 10, but now that they're stopping like that, let's just bump it up to say 100 and see what happens. Okay, we get another one. Okay, but you know, that's way too easy when they're coming out every second. So let's just try and maybe go every third of a second, so we speed it up a little bit. So now we're getting a few more. It's still pretty easy, but if we switch it from just a simple intersection to we have to intersect and maybe even click or press the mouse at the same time, yeah, that gets a little bit harder. And we could certainly change that vertical range in which they're going. That would increase our difficulty as well. We could change their flight path so it's not dead horizontal, but it starts following an arc. But these are all things that we're going to start exploring different movement options with it. But first, we want to be happy that we have our score happening. we're changing the state. We've now moved into this realm of being able to do simple states. Now our state is just simply we have one additional state, they're hit. That's okay. We're going to have to figure out how to reset them so we can use them again. We're parking them on the screen. Probably don't want to do that in our final production version. We'll park them off screen once they drop, but it's good to do that now so we know indeed what is happening and where they are. But again, these are good first steps. So we've added in a timer. We're using the millis function that is built into the language, and pretty much every programming language has some version of that. We're using that to make a timer. We're keeping track of our score. We now have a simple state we've added in, a hit state for our enemies. They're either hit or they're not. And then we're able to use that when we are intersecting them. So if we intersect and the enemy has not already been hit, then we hit them. We change their hit property to true, add to our score. So we're really coming along and turning this into an actual game. Good luck and have fun.